What if an ordinary visit to someone's house suddenly made you question your whole reality? These two girls are trapped in a bizarre maze where the only way out is to keep playing, but by the time that it's over, they'll never know who they can trust again. We're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the mind games in Heretic. This regular day is about to turn into a nightmare. One morning somewhere in small-town Colorado, two young Mormon girls, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, are going about their daily responsibilities. After a long day, they finally arrive at their last stop, which is a secluded house on the edge of town. Locking up their bikes near the front gate, the girls head up to knock on the door with no idea that they're walking straight into a death trap. The storm is just picking up when the girls knock on the door, but strangely, nobody answers even though they scheduled ahead of time. Knocking just a few more times, the man finally opens up and introduces himself as Mr. Reed, politely thanking the girls for stopping by. Excited, Paxton here hands him a pamphlet even though he already has one, and starts rapid-firing off her speech about why the man should consider joining their church. Interrupting her, the man invites the girls inside to dry up, but they say that they can't come in unless there's another woman present. That's when he explains that his wife is home, and the girls finally agree to come inside. But that was their biggest mistake. The man says that his wife is in the kitchen baking a pie and politely offers to hang up their coats. Before he leaves though, he briefly mentions how the walls and ceilings have metal in them, but the girls think nothing of it as he disappears down the hallway. Alright, these girls need to be careful because Reed here is freaking me the f out. He took a suspiciously long time opening the door even though it was pouring rain on the girls' heads. And then when he finally did answer, he seemed a lot more focused on getting them inside than on listening to Paxton's speech. This is mad suspicious, like he was hiding something, or even worse, setting up some kind of trap. Also, why is he walking around with a watering can even though it's raining? It might be a small detail, but it all adds up when you're deciding to trust him with your life. Safety is the whole reason why the girls wouldn't come inside without another woman present, but it doesn't work if you don't stick to the rule. As of right now, they still have no proof that this woman even exists, and they should have firmly stated that they'd either have to meet her at the door or just come back another time. Now that they're inside, he's already setting things up so that they can't leave. He could have hung up their coats here, but instead he took them deeper into the house, and now without them, it'll be much harder to escape in the cold conditions. When you look around the room, it seems like all of the windows are extremely small, and that's not a good sign if you need to make a quick exit. Alright, but you know who could definitely beat this freaky creeper? Yeah, obviously a team of Marvel superheroes and villains. I'm talking Moon Knight, Venom, and Deadpool would be my main dudes. But then maybe throw on a Spider-Man for good measure? Oh, but you're thinking, these dudes are never on the same team. How could they come together to fight a common enemy? Well, if you play Marvel Strike Force, you'll find out. Recruit your favorite characters from across the Marvel Universe, including Iron Man, Wolverine, Thanos, and more. Easily play, level them up, and outfit them with legendary gear. Engage in epic 5v5 battles, dominate PvP modes like Alliance War and Arena, and conquer challenging raids. The choice is yours. Will you be a hero or a villain? And this month, get ready for a highly anticipated absolute A-Force team. Led by the powerful Kaori, this new team is sure to shake up the Marvel Strike Force. Celebrate the holiday season with Marvel Strike Force. Use the promo code DEC24 to unlock exclusive what-if characters like Captain Carter, Star-Lord, T'Challa, and Strange Heartless. Click on the link in the description or scan the QR code to download the game. Freaking school's about to be out, what else are you gonna do? Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Download Marvel Strike Force today and start your heroic journey. And let me know down in the comments if your Marvel Strike Force team could beat today's villain. But the weirdest thing of all was what he said right before he left. There's metal in the walls and ceilings? What the f does that mean? Because what the hell could that be for besides keeping people trapped inside? If it were me, the first thing I'd do is text someone from the church and, let them know what the was going on, so they can send help if there's any trouble. While they're there, the girls should stick together and avoid any situations that might split them up, allowing them to watch each other's backs and use their friend as a meat shield if anything goes wrong. I'm just saying. Then all that's left to do is come up with a polite excuse for why they need to leave and get out of there while they still have a chance. Now, if Reed tries to stop them, then that's where things get interesting. They have outnumbered him, but he's fighting with a home field advantage and could have access to weapons that we haven't seen yet. So it's better to avoid getting physical for as long as they can. This means that they need to focus on distracting him while they make a break for it. Otherwise, they'll have to use whatever they can to defend themselves. Paxton here still has her bag, so hopefully she's packing some heat, or at least some pepper spray. Everything from pens, keys, to furniture from around the room could all be used to kick his ass and get out of there. But as they're about to find out, this nightmare is just getting started. It takes a while for him to come back, and while they're waiting, Barnes notices that something about this place just feels a little weird. That's when he finally comes back with a coffee for himself and 2 sodas for the girls, but there's still no sign of his wife. The girls insist that she needs to be in the room, but he promises that she'll be out soon enough, and they all take a seat around the table to start their chat. Before they get into it, he wants to know some more background about the girls' childhoods. Paxton explains that she was born a member of the church, but Barnes was actually born in Philadelphia and joined after her mother converted. This gets Reed here fired up, and he starts explaining how he's spent his life trying to find the one true religion. Paxton here thinks that this is a good sign, but the truth is that this guy isn't as wholesome as he seems. The girls are surprised when Reed starts reciting the whole history of their religion straight from memory, and walking over to the shelf, he comes back with his own copy of the Book of Mormon. When Barnes brings up the pie again, he asks if they can smell what kind it is, and her friend correctly guesses that it's blueberry. Changing the subject, he asks Barnes if her father's spirit has ever tried to contact her since he passed away, but the conversation starts to get uncomfortable the longer it goes on. Just then, a few of the lights go out, and that's when Reed says that he wants to ask them some awkward questions before they finish. Thinking nothing of it, the girls agree to play along, but they have no idea where this is about to go. He asks the girls how they feel about the old practice of Mormon men having multiple wives, but more specifically, what they think about changing the rules to get rid of it many years later. Barnes here explains that it was done out of necessity for their population, but these days they've changed to go along with the times. To Reed, it points to holes in their beliefs, and he keeps getting more confrontational the more that Barnes disagrees. Trying to get out of there, she mentions bringing his questions up to their bishop, but Reed won't be letting them go so soon. Asking them their favorite fast food place, the girls eventually pick Wendy's, and he compares his research to trying something at every restaurant. He only wanted a sample of what each religion had to offer, but in the end, he ended up finding the one true religion. By now, the girls are starting to get creeped out, and they nervously ask if his wife is ready to meet them. While he gets up to check, Barnes tells her friend that they need to go home, and they notice that their phones aren't getting any signal. That's when Barnes looks down at the candle, and turning it around, she's horrified to discover that the scent is blueberry pie. Just then, Reed comes back into the room, telling the girls that his wife is finally ready. Taking the tray, he starts leading them down the hallway deeper into the house, but Barnes quickly stops her friend at the door, saying that they need to take a phone call first. Once he's out of sight, the girls agree that they need to sneak out, but getting away won't be as simple as they think. Going for the door, Barnes remembers that their bikes are locked up, and the old man has their jackets with the key. Thinking it over, they decide to go for it anyway, only to realize that the door will not open. That's when the girls realize that Reed has locked them in, and now it looks like their only choice is to follow him down the dark hallway. Okay, well, I guess they're f***ed. But this is what happens when you keep trusting the dude despite the constant red flags. Things were already strange from the start, but the more that they actually talked to this guy, the weirder that it got. First off, why would he even invite them over when he already knows more about their religion than they do? And if this guy is such a genius that he finally discovered the meaning of life, then what's he doing just chilling in some random-ass cabin in Colorado? Shouldn't he be writing a book or something? We can already tell that something isn't adding up, and that's only from what he said. Now, to make matters worse, we have physical evidence that this guy is full of I mean, come on, he put a blueberry pie-scented candle on the table right in front of them. He's obviously lying straight to their faces, just like he has been for this whole time. Now they're trapped in here with no obvious way out, and they need to decide what they're going to do next. They could try just playing along and following Reed down the hallway, but personally, I wouldn't be in a rush to go any deeper into this house. After everything that's already happened, I don't trust Reed at all, so I'd rather look for another way out than to keep playing into his weird little game. They should grab something for self-defense in case he gets violent, but we want to avoid a fight for now. Instead, their best bet is to try getting out through a window. How small of a gap you can fit through really depends on a lot of factors, but someone the girls' size should be able to fit through a space of about 15 inches in diameter in an emergency situation. The windows in the front of the house are still too small, but the one right behind them looks just big enough for either Barnes or Paxton to squeeze through. With that being said, Reed going down the hallway first actually gives them an advantage, because it looks like that's his only way back into the room. Knowing this, I'd quickly grab a piece of furniture and use it to wedge the door shut from their side. If that doesn't work, they could use shoelaces, sheets, or some clothes to anchor the handle to a piece of heavy furniture in the room, making it much more difficult for him to pull the door open. By blocking the door, this might force Reed to come back around and unlock the front, which gives the girls an opportunity to jump him and make a break for it. Either way, I'd rather hold out here than let this creep keep leading us deeper into his trap. Worried, Barnes tells her friend to call for help while she looks for another way out, but the problem is Paxton here cannot get any service, and none of the windows are big enough for them to fit through. With nowhere else to go, the girls start cautiously making their way down the hall. Up ahead, they stop dead in their tracks when they notice that someone is staring at them from around the corner. But when they get closer, they realize that it's just a creepy statue. That's when they finally reach a door at the end, but as they step inside, things get even stranger. Looking around, they realize that they've entered a brightly lit library with a religious altar at the front. Reed finally steps out from between the shelves, acting like nothing is wrong, and the girls nervously tell him that they need to get going. Disappointed, he says that he understands and points them to their coats while he puts some things away. But when they put their coats on, they realize that the key has been switched to Paxton's pocket, with the only explanation being that Reed here was going through their stuff. That's when Barnes mentions how the door was stuck, and he calmly explains to them that it won't happen again. Confused, they ask him what he means, and he explains that the deadbolts are on a timer that he cannot unlock, meaning that their only way out is to go through the back. Barnes politely confronts him, saying how this whole thing seems very fishy, but the man reassures her that it's perfectly safe, giving them as much time as they need to make their choice. He knows that they can't make any phone calls because when they came in, he told them about the metal in the walls and the ceiling that's stopping them from getting any service. Deciding that the best choice is to play along, Barnes asks him which of the two doors they should use, and although he won't give them a clear answer, he makes it seem like one option is definitely better than the other. Still hoping that he might be normal, Paxton asks the guy one last time if they can meet his wife, but that's when he decides to completely drop the act. Turning things back around on them, he asks the girls why they still believe that he even has a wife after everything that's happened. For him, this was all an experiment to make the girls question their own thought processes, and he knew they'd ignore the evidence because they're secretly afraid of the truth. By now, the girls have finally realized that they might be in danger, so Barnes carefully makes her way towards the doors. Opening the first one, she immediately closes it up again, horrified by what she sees. But the next door is just as bad, because inside, there's nothing but a long staircase leading down to a pitch-dark basement. He tries to explain it by saying that the house is built on a hill, and the only way out is down on the lower level. Sensing a trap, they remind him that the people from the church will be looking for them, but Reed here is still acting like they have nothing to worry about. Okay, I don't know about you, but there's exactly zero chance that I'm setting one foot in that creepy-ass basement. The girls really need to trust their instincts here and stop going along with everything this guy says. You never know when he's going to lock a door behind you, and every step farther just takes them deeper into his trap, so they need to stop listening to his directions, like right away, and instead start focusing on how they're going to escape. Ignoring him actually comes with an extra benefit because he obviously thrives on predicting their next moves. So by choosing not to play along, they might annoy him so much that he actually slips up or makes a mistake, which could end up being their ticket out of there. After everything they've seen so far, there's absolutely no way in hell I'd be going down into the basement unless I had no other choice. But it still seems like the easiest way out is actually the way that they came in. And now we have some more information about what happened with the door. Reed here says that the deadbolt is on a mechanical timer that won't open again until the morning, but if this is true, then there might be another way to get it open. The only way it could work is if there's some kind of mechanism attached to the lock, so they should try checking the door frame and nearby walls for any access points, and then use some keys or scissors to cut the wiring and disable the lock. Otherwise, they should try breaking down the door itself using a sturdy object to help them pry it open or smash through the paneling, since when you can't find an exit, you can always just make one. One thing they'll have to remember is that all of this action might draw some attention from our friend Reed here, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. They wanted to avoid a fight for as long as possible, but at this point, he has trapped them against their will. Eventually, they might have to throw hands with this guy, and it could be better to take him on now while they still have the element of surprise. They missed their first opportunity to go on the offensive while he was putting things on the shelf, but the next time that he lets his guard down or picks up a heavy object, the girls need to grab whatever they can find and clobber this old creep into submission. Yeah. With any luck, he probably has a key to open the door, and even if not, they can just keep beating answers out of him until they get out of this place. Either way, it would be a lot easier getting out without him causing any more trouble. So I'd consider jumping him here and now as a totally viable option. After letting them have a look through each door, Reed here finally agrees to help them choose the right one. Telling the girls to pay attention, he pulls out the board game Monopoly, explaining that there are copies in dozens of different languages, and that it's sold in hundreds of countries all around the world. Then he puts on a record by the British rock band, The Hollies. He says that everyone's heard of Monopoly, but they haven't heard of the Landlord's Game, which is basically the same thing, only it came out 30 years earlier. Although it never got popular, some other guy eventually came along, stole the idea for himself, and made the most successful board game in history. The same thing happened with The Record, The Air That I Breathe by The Hollies. Decades later, the band Radiohead used the same melody for their song Creep, and then Lana Del Rey did the same thing to them. His whole point is to say that every modern religion is like a spin-off version of the same original message, and tonight he wants to show them what the one true message really is. Turning off the lights, the man fires up a slideshow going all the way back to ancient Egypt and beyond, showing how all of the most popular religions are built off of each other. To him, it's like a long game of telephone, with the same message getting more obscure the longer it goes on. That's when he grabs a piece of chalk, writing the word belief on one door and disbelief on the other. He makes the argument that either everything they believe in is true or that it's all a lie, and he wants them to pick a door based on whether they still believe in their religion or not. From his point of view, he's convinced that it's all fake, but the girls still haven't made up their minds. Nervous, Paxton suggests that they should just play along and pick disbelief, thinking that it's what the man wants, but Barnes here isn't so sure. Going to the other door, she guesses that Reed won't let them leave either way, pointing out how he's been carefully controlling things all night. It seems like he's trying to learn something from what they choose, but Barnes refuses to doubt herself so easily, and eventually decides that they need to pick what they feel is right. Sticking together, the girls open the belief side and start carefully making their way into the darkness, but nothing could prepare them for what's about to happen next. As they're going down, the girls notice Reed standing behind them. He only closes the door and locks them in. In fact, it's so dark that they they have to use their phones to see, and their worst fears come true when they finally reach the bottom. Instead of a back door, it's nothing but a concrete basement with no way out, and it looks like both choices would have led them to the same place. Okay, well, I think we all saw that one coming. I mean, he made it seem like their choice was actually going to matter, but like we've already pointed out, every step into this place just leads them deeper into the trap. Barnes even said herself that there's no way he'd let them go after all of this. So even if he's promising you a way out, the absolute last thing that you want to do is keep going along with his game. Now he's in even more control, and they have almost no chance at getting out of there alive. The only way to find out what was really down there was for someone to go take a look. Now, usually I'd say not to split up, you guys know this, but this situation might be different. If they'd been thinking more clearly, then one of the girls could have gone downstairs to see if there really was a way out, while the other one stayed there in the library with Reed, and got ready to whoop his ass if he tried anything funny. Speaking of violence, it seems like the best strategy all along would have been to just give him a beatdown during his 20-minute PowerPoint presentation. There were plenty of moments during his little speech where he got a little distracted, and the girls could have easily waited until he reached down to pull out another board game or something and then just grabbed a candlestick and smashed him in the fucking head. For real. Now their chances of escaping just went from slim to almost none. But it doesn't have to mean that they're screwed just yet. The first thing that they need to do now is look around the basement and understand how every element factors in. You see, both staircases have doors at the bottom that lock, with no handle to open them from this side, so I'd start by finding something to block one of them open. Then we start working on our plan to escape. The vent that's high up on the back wall seems like their only way out of there, but it's too high for them to reach on their own. It's dangerous, but stacking the furniture and then having one girl climb onto the other's shoulders could give them the extra height that they need to pull it down. And as long as one of them can climb out, then they can run and get help for their friend. Otherwise, I'd start getting ready to squabble up. By breaking off legs from the table and chair, they can sharpen them against the concrete into perfect metal spears, giving them excellent reach and killing potential. Just saying. They could even use parts of the table as a shield for extra protection. I mean, hey, Reed still isn't expecting them to fight back yet, so their best choice is to use the element of surprise. The plan can be as simple as having one girl sit out in the open and start doing something to get Reed's attention. Then, when he comes through the door, the other girl jumps him from behind, and they can work together to finally take his ass down. They have no idea what the man has in store for them next, but whatever happens, Barnes knows that he isn't planning to let them go. While stacking the table and chair against the wall, she tells her friend that they can stall for time by challenging Reed on his philosophical options, since he can't resist the urge to debate. She tries climbing out through the window, but it's still too high for her to reach, and that's when they hear someone coming down the tunnel. Putting things back in place, she hands Paxton a sharp letter opener that she took from the man's office, telling her to use it when she says the code word magic underwear. Terrified, they watch as the left door slowly creaks open, but instead of Reed, a ghostly old woman carrying a blueberry pie shuffles into the room. The woman puts the pie down on the table before folding her arms and hunching over in the corner without saying a word. That's when the girls hear Reed mocking them through a pipe in the wall. The voice is coming from his office, where he's listening to Creep by Radiohead and moving figures around on a detailed model of his house. Seeing an opportunity, Barnes carefully avoids the woman and explores the opposite set of stairs, finding a hole in the wall that looks like it could be another door. The way out is still locked, but when she peeks underneath, she notices a box of matches lying on the rug. The music cuts out before she can grab it, and she runs back down as the man starts explaining what's next. He claims that this woman has the power to come back from the dead, and he needs them to witness it happening so that they can prove it's true. Pulling back her mask, she starts digging into the pie with her bare hands, as Reed explains that it's been poisoned. Within a few moments, the woman is going to die, but then she's going to come back to life. Sure enough, the woman stares at them for a second before suddenly dropping face first into the pie, and he asks the girl to feel her pulse as proof that she's really gone. They're nervously waiting for her to come back, but just when it looks like there's a problem, someone rings the doorbell. It's Elder Kennedy from their church, who noticed that the girls were missing when they never came home. and now Reed has to go deal with him first. The girls see him leave the secret room and exit through one of the doors, chasing him up the steps as they start screaming for help. But the thick walls manage to drown out the sound. Upstairs, he opens a light switch near the door and resets the deadbolt timer, answering it as if he has absolutely nothing to hide. The man asks him if he's seen the two girls, with no idea that they're only a few feet away. While he's busy, Barnes decides to try for the matches again and calls her friend to help as they start pulling the rug underneath the door. The elder stalls him for a while, but it's not long enough, and they're just about to reach the box when Reed comes back to the room. Lucky for them, he doesn't notice what they're up to, and they wait until he's gone to start again. This time, they actually manage to reach the matches until he starts coming back towards the door, but just when he's about to catch them, the doorbell rings again, saving them at the last second. Okay, this is an important moment because with the elder being here, it's their best chance to get noticed and hopefully escape. They've been banking on someone showing up to look for them all night, but the first time he came around, they almost blew it. Now, lucky for them, they're about to get another chance, but they need to realize the most critical mistake in their strategy. They were going to wait until Reed opened the door to start screaming. That way, the elder would be guaranteed to hear them, but he predicted this and shut the door to the lobby first. The added layers of the house made it impossible for the elder to hear, but they're forgetting that there's a caged vent on the other side of the room. Instead of trying to yell through the whole house, I'd climb on top of the table and start shouting through that window, because there's a chance that the sound might travel better around the outside of the house where there are no walls or doors to block the waves. The sound waves, I mean. You know, if the elder hears them and starts asking too many questions, then the complications this would cause for Reed's plan will give them a perfect opportunity to turn the tables on him. With that being said, I'm not exactly sure what the girls are planning to do with the matches, unless it's to burn down the entire house while they're still trapped in the basement. It certainly is better than nothing, but it's definitely not the best plan, since it might get the attention of the outside world, but doesn't directly lead to a way out. Instead, I'd focus on some important new information that they learned, and sticking to our original plan of kicking Reed's ass. Yeah, go mode. While exploring, Barnes noticed a secret door hidden in the left staircase that leads to Reed's study. Doesn't seem as reinforced as the others, so I would grab a tool and focus on trying to pry or smash it open. We've also seen that he has the keys on him to open the doors from this side, which seems obvious, but now that we can confirm it, we know that jumping him will 100% pay off. Now that we know he's keeping other prisoners here, there's only one thing left to do. Wait until the next time that he comes to the basement and then scrap like their lives depended on it. And maybe the zombie lady here will even help them out. Who the knows? As soon as he's gone, Barnes flips over the box and pulls a handful of matches under the door. The girls run back downstairs, and that's when Paxton notices something strange. It seems like the dead woman on the table is in a different position. Her friends think that it must be her imagination, and with no time to waste, they start desperately trying to light the matches against the wall. But soon, they're in for a pretty big surprise. It turns out that it was only Elder Kennedy again, but instead of coming to the rescue, he just wanted to make sure that Reed got a copy of their pamphlet. While he stands at the window watching the man leave, the girls keep struggling until they finally manage to get one lit. All of a sudden, the girl turns around to see the dead woman standing right behind her, and the two of them scream as she starts coughing up a bunch of blood, putting out their only match. In a hoarse tone, she tells them about a vision of what she saw on the other side. But at the very end, she holds a finger up to her mouth and whispers to the girls that it's not real. Just then, Reed comes back and thanks the woman for her prophecy before leading her away through the trapdoor on the steps. Turning to the girls, he takes out a pen and asks them to describe what they just saw, saying that their words will go down in the history books. Stunned, Paxton remembers what the woman told them, saying how it was like a vision of the afterlife, and the man agrees that she's correct. He says that he can show anyone what's on the other side, and the only catch being that they have to die and let him bring them back first. To him, not knowing would actually be more scary, but Barnes here is not buying the story. Standing her ground, Barnes insists that this is all just another one of his mind games, and she has a theory for what really happened. The visions sound a lot like what people see during a near-death experience, and she knows this because she's actually had one herself. She thinks that the woman is just another prisoner who Reed forced to play along, and now she's ready to end this once and for all. The man gets up and stands between them, but just as Barnes gives her friend the signal, he suddenly pulls out a box cutter and slits her throat, causing her to collapse in a puddle of her own blood. Terrified, Paxton runs for the door, but the man only stands there smiling as she bleeds to death on the ground, making one down with one more to go. Okay, well, Sister Barnes, that's a tough break. If I can get in my bag real quick, sometimes things happen in life that totally aren't your fault. And this was actually one of those times, for about 5 minutes anyway. But for the last hour and a half, you two have been doing nothing but making one dumb decision after another, all while he was literally telling you to your face what was about to happen. Sorry to say it, Sister Barnes, but I've got some bad news. You just f***ed up. This guy was acting strange as hell right from the jump. I mean, the first thing he says to you when you get inside is that there's metal in the walls and ceilings. What the peanut butter are you talking about? And you just ignored it? I'm not saying you should have called the cops right then and there, but that's definitely the moment where you need to start paying attention. Maybe he's just a nice old man with some weird habits. But that blueberry pie scented candle would have been the absolute last straw for me. He wanted you to find that just to get in your head, all to prove his point that he could manipulate you straight to your face and you'd be too polite to stand up for yourself. It really is some for real deal sicko right there, and this is exactly the moment where it turned from an awkward encounter to a fight for survival. You said yourself that he wasn't going to let you go, and yet you walked down into his murder dungeon anyway, just like a chicken volunteering for the nugget factory. Next time, you might want to try doing something before the last possible moment, because it turns out that violence really was the answer all along. Now it looks like Paxton will have to fend for herself, and I'm sorry to say it, Sister Barnes, but yeah, up. Knowing that she can't escape, Reed calls for the girl to come back down. He swears that her friend should come back to life at any minute, but as more and more time goes by with nothing happening, the man realizes that there must be a problem. Without explaining what he's about to do next, he suddenly picks up the razor and cuts a hole above her arm, before reaching in there with his bare hands and pulling out a tiny metal object. Crossing the basement, he drops the object into Paxton's hands and says that her friend can't come back because she was never a real person. Confused, the girl asks him to explain, and he says that it's all related to a concept called the butterfly dream, an ancient Chinese philosophy that argued we could all just be butterflies dreaming that we're really people. To put it in modern terms, he thinks we live in a simulation so advanced that we don't even realize it's all fake, and for proof, he reminds her of when the prophet said it's not real. Barnes here was only an NPC, which is why she couldn't come back, but when Paxton dies, she'll be able to cross over into the real world. Feeling confident that he's convinced her, Reed asks the girl what she thinks, but she has a different idea about what really happened. The object in Barnes' arm wasn't a microchip, it's a birth control implant, and even though her friend never admitted to having one, Paxton knows that she kept it a secret for fear of the consequences. The problem with his simulation theory is that there's no way you can test it, and Reed here agrees that it's all a matter of belief. But she doesn't believe it's true, even though she can't explain why. That's when he brings up the prophet again, but now Paxton here isn't buying that trick either. She thinks the woman actually died and he just switched her body out with someone else, but she's not sure how he managed to pull it off. When the elder rang the doorbell, he knew that they'd be focused on the stairs, and when they came back down, she noticed that the dead body was in a different position. Her explanation is that another woman came in through a hidden door, replaced the body, and then read the prophecy from a script. The only problem was, she decided to go off script at the very end. It's not real wasn't part of the prophecy. It was a warning, and the woman was telling them not to trust Reed. Going along with it, the man says that there'd have to be a hidden door somewhere in the basement and starts knocking on walls to prove that it isn't true. That's when Paxton notices rain dripping through the skylight, and she tips over the table and pours the water onto the ground, revealing a trapdoor hidden in the floor. Reed doesn't try to stop her as she slowly pulls it open, but warns the girl not to go down there unless she's ready to face the consequences. Still, she knows that going down might be her only chance at getting out of there, and she nervously climbs down the ladder into the darkness. Okay, I must be going crazy here because I genuinely can't believe that she's about to make the same f***ing mistake. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but every step you take into his house just gets you deeper into this trap. He wouldn't even let her go down there unless he planned for it already, and the last thing we want to do is keep playing along. I mean, he just killed her friend right in front of her and tried to play it off like it was all a simulation. If it was not clear enough before, she's dealing with an unhinged psychopath, and there's absolutely no way that he's letting her out of this alive. So Paxton here needs to stop wasting time and take the next opportunity to end this once and for all. Right now, she still has the letter opener, and Reed here isn't expecting an attack. All she needs to do is get his guard down and she'll have a free chance to take him out. Instead of going down the ladder, the girl should try putting on a convincing act that Barnes is actually coming back to life. And then when Reed turns around to look, turn that letter opener into a larynx opener, if you know what I mean. Cut. I'm saying get cut. Cut the man. I mean, all she'd have to do is take the keys out of his pocket and go home, but instead, she's about to make the most shocking discovery yet. When she reaches the bottom, she finds the woman's body lying in the mud, proving that her fears were true, and Reed quickly closes the hatch, locking her inside. Her only choice is to keep going forward, passing through 3 doors that are all locked up from the outside, until she finally gets to the last one, and it's locked with the lock from their bikes. The good news is that she has the key, but maybe it's not good news after all. Unlocking it, she steps into a large metal chamber with 6 cages holding different women who are all on the verge of death. That's when Reed comes down a set of stairs on the other side of the room and asks the girl if she finally figured out what the one true religion really is. Putting the pieces together, she realizes that he's been manipulating them the whole time, even down to making sure that Paxton had the key instead of Barnes. The point was to prove that he was always the one deciding their actions, even when they thought that they were making their own choices, because the one true religion is actually just control. The way he sees it, he's never done anything to his victims that they didn't allow him to do, and he keeps the prisoners in this weakened state so that they'll be easier to manipulate. Sitting down, he starts trimming the prophet's fingernails with a pair of hedge trimmers, only to cut off one of her fingers as punishment for going off script. He says that he was able to trick them because they've lived their whole lives blindly following whatever they've been told, allowing him to predict every decision that they'd make throughout the night. The only problem with his logic is there's just one thing that he couldn't predict. And just when he leans over her shoulder, Paxton takes out the letter opener and pierces it straight through the bottom of his chin, running out of the room as he falls backwards in shock. The path leads her to a ladder that goes back up to Reed's secret room, but he isn't done with her just yet. She quickly takes the desk and pushes it against the door, but now the only way to go is back into the basement. When she gets to the bottom, Paxton notices that the trapdoor is open yet again. But by the time that she realizes what happened, it's already too late. The girl spins around, only for Reed to stab her straight in the stomach, and she staggers to the corner where she collapses from her injuries. Now it looks like they're both on the verge of death, and strangely, the man starts asking her to pray for them. That's when Paxton tells him that it won't work, remembering an experiment where half the patients prayed while the others didn't. In the end, the results came back inconclusive, but she still thinks that it's the right thing to do, even if it might not be true. Paxton doesn't even try to fight back anymore as the man slowly crawls towards her, and he lies there for a moment crying because he's afraid to die. Taking out his knife, he's just about to finish the girl off as his final act of revenge, when all of a sudden, somebody picks up a spiked board from the ground and bashes him straight in the face. It's Barnes, who's somehow still alive after all this time, and woke up at just the right moment to save her friend's life. There's nothing that Paxton can do as the girl finally dies from her injuries, but now the old man is finished too. That makes 2 down with 1 survivor. The only problem is, she still needs to find a way out of this house. Returning to the office, she takes apart the scale model until she finds a vent that leads outside. It's just big enough for her to fit through, and after surviving a night from hell, she finally emerges into the snowy daylight. Getting to her feet, she takes out her phone to call for help, and while she's waiting, a butterfly comes and lands directly on her finger, proving that her friend Barnes is still watching over her from the other side. Boom! Heretic. 2024. I think this is like maybe the last big spooky movie to get a big theatrical release here in 2024. Last big spooky movie of 2024. Everything in the cinema right now is just Christmas films. So I think wow, what a year. Strange Darling, Heretic, Long Legs. What a good fucking year for horror movies. But if you think that you would do something differently to the Heretic, let me know down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. I'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.